Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more 410 buckshot testing. And we've definitely got a pretty interesting thing to run out here today. We're going to test it through a bunch of chokes and we're going to find out what it likes and what it doesn't like. And hopefully we can get some pretty decent results, at least through one of these choke combinations, because this load has shown some decent performance so far the one other time we've tested it, so I'm definitely curious to see how it does today. So for the shell I've got out here today, I brought out some of the Winchester Super X 410 buckshot loads. These are the 2.5 inch 3 pellet triple aught buck shells going about 1,300 feet per second. Now we did do this test a while back with the 3-inch 5 pellet version of this shell. It was definitely pretty interesting. So now we've got the 2.5 inch 3 pellet version. So let's see what results we get out of these today. And for the setup I've brought out here to test them with, I've got my Mossberg 500 410 turkey out here today. Now, although this is the turkey model, it's not any kind of special overbore or anything like that, but it does have changeable chokes, so we can actually test this and see what kind of results we get through those different chokes. Now, as for the test, we're going to run it the same as we usually try and run these what choke is best for type of videos. I have a cylinder bore, an improved cylinder, a modified, and a full choke that we're going to be testing today out of that gun. So we're going to take those 4 shots at a distance of 30 yards. Usually I do buckshot patterns at 40 yards. However, when it comes to 410 buckshot, you guys have suggested to do it at 30 yards because that's really about the limit for a 410 buckshot load, pretty much just based on sheer pellet count alone. So 30 yards is going to be today's distance. I do have the chronograph as well, so we will be able to see what kind of velocity we're getting and how close it is to what the box says we should be seeing. So we'll start off today with the cylinder bore choke at 30 yards. We'll shoot one of these shells through it. We'll check our pattern and see how it looks. Then we'll switch up to the improved cylinder and then the modified and the full and so on. So let's head over here and get set up with a view of this chronograph. We'll take that first shot with the cylinder bore choke and we'll start testing this and see what actually happens. So let's head over here and shoot them and see what kind of results we get. Alright, so now we're down here at 30 yards looking at our paper, and for reference, the size of that paper is 36 inches wide by roughly about 36 inches tall, and this is the pattern that we got. We had all 3 pellets on the piece of paper here, and I did measure it out to be about a 12.25 inch spread. So I mean, 12 inches isn't terrible, I wouldn't say. It's definitely not the worst we've seen, and it could have been a lot worse, but I also think it can get a whole lot better than that too. So at least now we have a starting point, and we can move up in choke from here and see what happens. I'll go ahead and mark these off with a colored sticker, and let's go throw the improved cylinder in the gun and see how that one patterns. Alright, so now let's take a look here at the group it gave us through that improved cylinder choke. And it gave us these 3 holes in a row right there. Now I measured that out to be right at an 8-inch group. So we went from a 12.25 inch, I believe it was, to an 8-inch group by going up to an improved cylinder choke. So definitely starting to see some improvements, I'd say. That's not too terrible and definitely heading in the right direction. But can it get a little bit better than that even? Let's go back and throw a modified choke in the gun and try it again. Alright, so now let's take a look at our modified choke grouping here. And what we saw is pretty interesting. Now we had 2 down there and 1 flyer that clearly went up to the right. Now is that an actual flyer and should it be a tighter group like those 2 down there? I don't know. Or are we actually getting worse as we've hit the modified constriction here? I don't know. I'm almost leaning towards that one over on the top right being a flyer out of the group. But unfortunately, I don't have an extra one of these shells to test it again, so we're just kind of going to have to see what happens when we go to the full choke. But as far as group size there, that's a 12.5 inch spread there. So a little bit worse than where we started, but I don't know. I'm leaning towards that one being a flyer. But let's go put the full choke in the gun and take our last shot and see what kind of results it gives us. Alright, so now let's take a look at our full choke spread here and see what it gave us. We had 3 shots just up here, and it's kind of seems like the tighter we go above an improved cylinder, the worse we get. That's a 9.75 inch group right there. So a little bit better than what the modified choke did on the black and orange square dots, but not nearly as good as what that improved cylinder did over on those orange circles. So overall here, it's looking like improved cylinder is potentially the best, unless the modified choke had the 1 flyer up here and it might have been a little bit better. I don't know. And it's also pretty funny to see the little blue gas check piece, which we'll take a look at closer here in a second, but it's stuck in the paper target right there. But overall here, looking at the groups, the black is the cylinder bore choke. The orange circles are the improved cylinder choke. The black and orange squares are the modified choke. And the holes with no stickers that we just shot up here are the full choke. So looking at all of them side by side here, so far I'm liking what the improved cylinder is doing over on those orange circles. So for this test, I'm saying that improved cylinder won. I wish we had another round to shoot through that modified choke. I just don't, unfortunately, but you guys can let me know in the comments what has been your experience if you've tried these loads through some different choke constrictions. Let me know what kind of results you've gotten. But overall here, I'm saying today's winner is the improved cylinder choke, which is a little bit surprising considering what other results that we've gotten out of similar loads before. I would have probably expected the full choke to shoot the best, but that's not the case here today. Okay, and here's that little gas check piece, and it's just a little blue piece of plastic that's got a little concave bit on either end here. It's the same thing they use in both the Buckshot and the slug loads in 410 shells, it would seem. So nothing too weird or out of the ordinary to see here. Okay, so let's take a look at our chronograph numbers here real quick. The box was claiming 1300, and we definitely saw that. I think there was one that was just a touch below, but we definitely saw the 1300. But let's scroll through here and take a look and see what the actual numbers show us. So for a high, it gave us 1374. For a low, it gave us 1299. And that gave us an average of 1337. So yeah, 37 feet per second above the box claim. Not too bad, I wouldn't say. It's definitely always nice to see what the box is claiming, especially out of a big manufacturer like Winchester. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance there? Yes, it's not, a super scientific way to test it. I wish we could have shot one more through the modified choke because of that flyer, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. But at the end of the day, I was kind of expecting the full choke to probably do the best, since those are triple-aught buck and they're definitely a little bit smaller pellet size than what the bore size of the shotgun is. So I figured full choke would probably give us a pretty good seal without squishing the pellets. But that's not really what we saw here today, which is why it's always fun to come out here and test stuff like this, because sometimes you get surprised. What you think is going to do well doesn't do as well as you think it might. So definitely pretty interesting to see here. But as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see overall, or were you a little bit surprised one way or the other? And if you've tested these shells through some different chokes or something similar, what kind of results have you seen out of them? And is this about what you have gotten as far as performance, where if you go above an improved cylinder choke, they start to open up a little bit more? Let me know all that down in the comments. But with that being said, I've got several more tests coming y'all's way, so stay tuned. As always, we do have the channel Instagram as well as a mailbox where you can send stuff to the channel. If you're interested in that information, it will be in the description, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.